Hello everyone and welcome back to part 3 of the World Championship Prequel Series between Carlsen and Caruana. This game is played in the 2014 Chess Olympiad in Norway. And the reason why I have decided to show you this game is because Carlsen went for the Scandinavian defense, which is rarely seen at the top level, so I thought it's quite interesting. So in this game, Fabiano with white and Magnus with the black pieces. And before going into the game, I thought it would be nice to show you a picture of that matchup between Carlsen and Caruana. So here you go, this is a picture in black and white, and it's taken just before the game. Alright, enough of that, so now let's head into the game. We have e4 from Caruana, d5 from Carlsen, the Scandinavian defense, e takes d5, queen takes d5, knight c3, queen to d8, here queen to a5 is also a commonly played move. d4 from Caruana, gaining space in the center and also preparing to develop the dark square bishop. Knight f6, we have knight to f3 and bishop to g4. A common idea in the Scandinavian is to develop this light square bishop first before closing it out with e6. h3 from Caruana, provoking this bishop and asking the question, where is it going to go? Are you going to go to h5 or are you going to capture on f3? And Magnus captures on f3. We have queen takes f3. Here's c6, so gaining more control of the d5 square. We have knight to e2, so this defends the pawn on d4, and also white is freeing up the pawn on c2. So moves like c3 or even c4 are possible for white in the future. Here Carlsen plays e6, so making room for this dark square bishop to develop, and also at the same time gaining more control of the d5 square. g4 from Caruana, gaining space on the king side and also intending maybe bishop g2. Queen d5 from Carlsen, offering a trade of queens, and if this is taken then the endgame would be okay for black. So Caruana plays bishop g2. We have knight bd7 and queen to g3, so Caruana doesn't want to trade queens, and this also unleashes an attack on the queen. Queen to c4 from Carlsen, so trying to keep the queen active, looking at c2 and also e2. Queen b3 from Caruana, so now Caruana offers an exchange of queens, which Magnus accepts. And then we have bishop d6, black develops his last piece, and c4 from Caruana, so gaining space in the center and controlling this d5 square, preventing a knight to d5 move. a6 from Carlsen, so Carlsen wants to go queenside, and if he castles queenside immediately, then the pawn on a7 will hang. Therefore he plays a6 first. Bishop e3 from Caruana, developing his last piece. Black castles and white castles queenside as well. We have rook h to e8 from Carlsen, so putting these rooks on the nice central files, and at some point black wants to strike with e5. Knight g3 from Caruana. We have knight f8 and bishop to f3, protecting the g4 pawn because white wants to push forward on the king side. Knight g6 from Carlsen, controlling the f4 square, and at some point black wants to play bishop f4. We have h4, bishop to f4, h5, bishop takes e3 check, f takes e3, and knight to e7. e4 from Caruana, gaining even more space in the center and threatening to play e5, where this square would be freed up for the knight on g3. So here h6 from Carlsen, creating a flight square for this knight, and if e5, which was what happened in the game, and after knight h7, now black has the g5 square for the knight. After knight to e4, rook f8, knight d6 check, king to c7. Well, it seems like white's position is very good, having a strong knight on d6, but black is in fact okay in this position. He doesn't really have a weakness. You could say the only weakness would be on f7, but that is easily covered with a knight coming to g5. Bishop g2 from Caruana, so making room for a rook coming to f1, knight g5, rook h to f1, and f6. So Carlsen is trying to undermine the support of the knight on d6, After king c2, we have f takes e5, d takes e5, and here knight to c8, challenging this knight on d6. Therefore, Caruana plays c5, giving more support to the knight, but unfortunately now this square is available for the black knight. So we have knight e7, preparing to jump to d5, b4 from Caruana, and knight d5 from Carlsen. We have bishop takes d5, eliminating that annoying knight, c takes d5, and here black would love to go king c6 and b6, so white reacts actively with b5. So trying to go b6, and if b6 is achieved, then white has a nice position. So Carlsen plays a takes b5, knight takes b5 check, king c6, knight d6, and here knight to f3, going after this pawn. So here you cannot take on c5 because you would lose the exchange. So after knight to f3, Caruana plays b4, protecting the pawn on c5, and here instead of taking the pawn on e5, which would give white counterplay after rook f to e1, Carlsen goes for rook to a8, activating this rook, and also black can give checks along the side of the board. Caruana plays rook to a1, challenging the black rook. Rook takes a1, rook takes a1, and now Carlsen captures on e5. We have rook to a7 from Caruana, going after this pawn on b7. And black can play b6, this is totally fine. But this does allow rook takes g7. After b takes c5, b takes c5, king takes c5. At some point, white can go g5, and this might be a bit complicated because then white would have a pass pawn on the h file. So here Carlsen goes rook to b8, protecting this pawn, a good move. After rook to a3, here b6 from Carlsen. So rook to a7 from Caruana, attacking the pawn on g7, but after b takes c5, here if rook takes g7, then this knight will simply be taken. So Caruana plays rook to a6 check. King to c7, b takes c5, and knight to d7, going after this pawn. Rook a7 check, king c6, g5 from Caruana. We have knight takes c5, and this is simply already winning for white because he has two extra passed pawns. Here d4 from Carlsen, pushing the passed pawn. Knight to e5 check, king d5, knight d7, d3 check, king c1, knight takes d7, rook takes d7, and here king to e4 from Carlsen. And it was in this position that Fabiano Caruana resigned the game. These pawns are simply too much for white to handle, and at some point white would have to give up his rook for a pawn. So I hope you enjoyed this nice game from Magnus Carlsen. Do stay tuned for more upcoming games between Carlsen and Caruana heading up to the World Championship in November. So that is all for this video. Hope you enjoyed it and have a nice day.